Welcome to another edition of News Bites here on Daily World Television. My name is Kal Korff and I'm your host. For the first time in memory, American-backed militant rebels who have been fighting for years now to overthrow Syria's brutal dictator Bashar Assad have for the first time agreed to UN conditions to move the peace process forward in Syria. Put another way, this is now a victory for the troika of Iran, Russia, and of course Syria's dictator Bashar Assad. The fact that US-backed rebels would agree to the UN framework is basically tantamount to surrender. You must remember that during the presidency of Barack Obama, his position and that of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was very clear. And the reason I mention Clinton is because she's the one who was Secretary of State when this dumb idea caused the problems in Syria. Their view was to go ahead and align with the Saudis and Turkey and the Kuwaitis and the Jordanians and a few other small Arab nations to go ahead and oust Assad. They had no idea for a successor, no plan for a successor. The real reason for doing it had nothing to do with human rights. Their real ulterior motive was to weaken the country of Iran, because out of the other side of their mouth, while they were condemning Iran, they were in secret negotiations with Iran to cut this nuclear deal that was eventually approved. Assad remained in power because of the backing of Iran. Iran sent in its terrorist cadres known as Hezbollah, the terrorist group, and they made a difference on the ground. They turned Assad's fortunes around. Assad's grip on power was still a bit tenuous, though, until Russia stepped in and literally bombed the you-know-what out of everybody, turning and ensuring that Assad would remain in power. Obama then eventually abandoned the rebels, which he had funded to the tune of several $billion, and now some of those surviving rebels are at the negotiating table trying to carve out what little they can achieve in this framework that has been now brokered by the UN Security Council. So the involvement of the United States in the debacle in Syria has proven to be Obama's Vietnam. Did the media hold him accountable, or Secretary of State Hillary Clinton accountable for what they did? No, of course not. They weren't Donald Trump. So now you have them agreeing to these conditions. Does this mean that there's going to be sweetness and light in Syria going forward? Absolutely not. But there's more than just US-backed rebels fighting in Syria. There is, of course, the Islamic State, and then there is another terrorist group, which a lot of people have largely forgotten about, called Al-Qaeda. Recently, the United States launched airstrikes and took out at least 20 different targets belonging to Al-Qaeda, as Trump has stepped up the war, keeping his campaign promise to take it to Al-Qaeda as well as the Islamic State. And whatever Trump has planned in mind now has yet to happen, has yet to be unleashed, because the Pentagon just gave him a few days ago their grand plan after Trump gave them 30 days to come up with a new way of fighting them, hopefully with producing the result of victory. We'll see.